The first half of 2026 has given us a bunch of incredible metal albums.
Yeah.
But there are nearly 6 more months to go, so today let's take a look at some of the most anticipated metal albums of the rest of 2026. Here you go. After releasing Primal Fear's Domination last year, Matt Sinner now prepares a new album with his, well, I guess technically main band, Sinner, which, by the way, for the record, celebrates its 45th anniversary this year.
Wow!
And so the new Sinner album, titled Boom Bang Goodbye, will see the light of day on July 31st, and will be the band's first with 3 new members. By the way, all 3 Millers. And of course will also feature a bunch of guest appearances, ranging from Ronnie Romero to Magnus Carlsson and a lot of other rather big names in the world of metal. German electronic chorists Electric Callboy, that's how you call them, right? I mean, electronic chorists? But nevertheless, Electric Callboy will release their 7th studio album titled Tanznight on August 7th via Century Media, which will be the band's first since Techno, released in 2022, and the first without their longtime drummer David Friedrich, who left Electric Callboy last April. And once again, it will feature a bunch of incredible collaborations, including the ones that were already out. Like, for example, their latest single featuring legendary pop punks The Offspring. And whether you like this band or not, will be your dancing soundtrack on pretty much all of the major festivals this year. The second part of Marilyn Manson's One Assassination Under God will see the light of day on August 14th this year, 2 years after the first part was released via Nuclear Blast. Interesting fact is that Marilyn Manson has actually created a cover artwork for this album himself, which is in fact his own watercolor self-portrait, with some reviewers already mentioning some similarities between the self-portrait and the personification of death in the legendary Ingmar Bergman classic movie The Seventh Seal, which I don't know whether it was done intentionally, but definitely sounds like something Marilyn Manson would do. But nevertheless, talking about the music, both singles released so far have been met with extreme enthusiasm by pretty much all the Marilyn Manson fans around the world. And I gotta be honest with you, I absolutely love them. And I'm more than sure that many people cannot wait to see how this music will sound live on the massive world tour on which Marilyn Manson will embark right after the release of this record. New wave of British heavy metal legends Tokyo Blade continue the streak of new releases. After last year's album Time is the Fire and a giant retrospective collection Beware the Blade, Tokyo Blade prepared their next studio record titled Hoist the Colors High, due to be released on August 21st. Interestingly enough, 2 of the band's founders, vocalist Alan Marsh and guitarist Andy Bolton, created this album completely by themselves. So they're technically the only 2 musicians on this record, and it definitely will be something worth checking out for all the fans of classic heavy metal. Aussie hard rockers Airborne return after nearly 7 years of silence this August 28th with their self-titled 6th studio record. The first one featuring Brett Tyrrell on the guitar and also featuring songwriting and production collaborations with big names like Bryan Adams, Def Leppard's Phil Collen, Mutt Lange and Brian House, which, given Airborne's current status, somewhat comes off as a statement that this band is ready to take a torch and become one of the leading acts in the world of hard rock and heavy metal. In addition to that, the second half of 2026 will be quite rich for thrash metal records, and Exhumer's Death Mask Messiah will be the first one of the many. And just like with Airborne, it will be the band's return after nearly 7 years since the release of their latest studio record Hostile Defiance, and the first one with 2 brand new band members. Bassist Alex Voss, who joined Exhumer as a touring musician in 2019 and only in 2024 became their permanent member, and a drummer Jerome Rail, who joined Exhumer last year and is, in case you guys didn't know, a son of nobody else but Creator's Venter, who continues the dynasty and makes sure that thrash metal is preserved for the future generations. Death Messiah! American prog power metal act Camelot will release their 14th studio record titled Dark Asylum on August 28th. Interesting fact is that this album was actually announced on May 27th, so 3 months after the band announced a supporting world tour for this record, and will feature a bunch of pretty awesome collaborations, including the ones with Ad Guys, Tobias Summit, and Vision of Atlantis Clementi Deloney, among many, and I mean like many others. Oh, silence me. Mastodon have finally stopped teasing their fans and just now announced Marrow Deep, their upcoming studio release, which will be out on August 28th and will be a very special release for the band and its fans, since it will of course be the band's first album after the death of the guitarist Brent Hyde, who died last year in a road accident, and will be the band's tribute to their legendary ex-guitarist, becoming one of the most bittersweet releases of this year. By the way guys, super quick, just wanted to point out that only a fraction of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed to this channel. So if you're not one of those, and especially if this is not the first video you're watching here, I would really, and I mean like really appreciate it if you would consider subscribing right now. Let's continue building this amazing heavy metal community together. One more album that will see the light of day on the same day, August 28th, is Flotsam and Jetsam's Rats in a Temple. The album, which for the very first time in the band's catalog, will be produced by Flotsam's drummer Ken Mary, and once again was created together with the legendary Jacob Hansen, who did mixing and mastering for the record. Two of the singles from this album are already out, and the craziest thing is that they are coming from like completely different sides of the spectrum of the Flotsam and Jetsam sound. So, truth be told, and I'm more than sure most of Flotsam and Jetsam fans have no idea what this album will actually sound like, making it one of the most interesting releases of this year. Why can't you see me? When two legends unite, Genesis' Steve Hackett and Marillion's Steve Rothery will end this summer with their duet album The Roaring Waste, due to be released on, well, you guessed it right, August 28th. And this one will actually be an instrumental guitar release, inspired by Rothery's childhood memories. And given the names of who is collaborating on this record, well, no doubt it will be the most anticipated release for all the fans of prog rock and prog metal. Another new wave of British heavy metal legends will drop their new album this September. Tigers of Pankton's Electrified will see the light of day on September 11th and will be the first one featuring John Footed on the guitar. In addition to that, it will feature a guest appearance by guitarist Marco Angioni, who also happened to be a producer of Electrified. And interestingly enough, before that, most fans actually knew him by working on doom and death metal albums. So it definitely will be a rather interesting mix, and I'm actually rather curious to see what Marco's influence and upbringing can bring into the world of new wave of British heavy metal. And thus we're coming to possibly the most anticipated release of 2026 overall. The legendary Anthrax will finally drop Cursum Perficio this September 18th, their first studio album since 2016. Now, the band started recording sessions for this album in spring of 2023, and only in June of 2025 they finally came to the mixing stage of the album. And here's the thing, we all have been waiting for Anthrax to finally release their brand new album for so long now, that still, to this very day, I simply cannot believe that they are dropping this release today in 2026. And given the whole fact that this album's title is being translated as Journey Completed, which of course sparked quite a lot of rumors about this possibly being Anthrax's last studio album ever, well, of course adds to the anticipation of this release. Although, to be honest with you, despite the whole fact that Anthrax have already dropped 2 singles from this album, and I loved both of them, I still will not believe that Anthrax are actually releasing this album until I physically hold it in my hands. Halloween and Gamma Ray co-founder Kai Hansen will release his second solo album on September 18th, 10 years after his debut studio record XXX 3 Decades in Metal. And according to the press release, across the 10 songs, fans will get a mixture of classic trademark power metal, punk attitude, hard rock drive, melodic hooks, and guitar-driven energy. And all this featuring 2 musicians from extreme metal scene, Alexander Dietz on guitar and Dan Wilden on the drums, making it most likely one of the most diverse albums Kai Hansen has ever been a part of. One of the hottest hard and heavy acts of the past 25 years, Kiss and Dynamite will release their self-titled 9th studio record on September 18th. And according to the press release for the band, it will be both an end of an era and the beginning of something absolutely new, since Kiss and Dynamite's vocalist Hannes Brown announced that it will be his last album with the band, after which he will be retiring from music altogether, making it one of the most anticipated and one of the most bittersweet releases for all the Kiss and Dynamite fans. Christian metal giant Striper will release their 18th studio output titled Throne of Thorns on September 25th. The band already had presented the first single off of it, the title track of a new album, which according to vocalist Michael Sweet is a powerful message and a perfect representation of the band's 43-year-long legacy, history and identity. Swedish hard rock giants Europe will return after 9 years of silence with their brand new 12th studio album Come This Madness, due to be released on September 25th as well. That, interestingly enough, will actually be featuring Opeth's Michael Åkerfeldt and Ghost's Tobias Forge as special guests. And according to the press release, this record is deeply personal yet globally resonant. Whatever the flip that means. One of the biggest melodic death metal releases still to come this year is Amon Amarth's The All-Father Awakens, arriving on October 2nd. It will be the band's first full-length album in more than 4 years, following 2022's The Great Heathen Army, and promises 10 new tracks packed with the massive riffs, soaring melodies, and Norse mythology that have made Amon Amarth one of metal's most reliable live and studio acts. And if the record lives up to the first 2 songs already released by the band, The All-Father Awakens could easily become one of the standout metal albums of 2026. Ukrainian modern metal band Ignea will release their brand new studio output Monumental on October 23rd through Napalm Records. The follow-up to 2023's Dreams of Lands Unseen explores nostalgia across 9 tracks, moving from the optimism of Cold War-era space exploration to decaying modernist architecture and the weight of personal and collective memory. Mixed and mastered by Jacob Hansen, Monumental is Ignea's second full-length album written during Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, with much of the recording completed in Kyiv during the winter of 2025-2026, amid freezing temperatures and prolonged power outages. And being a Ukrainian, I do implore pretty much everyone who is a fan of modern metal to definitely check it out when it does come out. And yet another gift for all of the thrash metal fans around the world. British legends Anthrax return on October 30th with their 7th studio album Allied with the Enemy. That will be their 3rd studio output after the band's reunion back in 2013. And for this one, the band again joined forces with 2 legends, producer Andy Sneap and the artist Dan Goldsworthy. And according to the press release, will deliver the heaviest output this band has ever done in their entire career, still remaining true to their own Anthrax roots. And to close the list, at least so far, since a couple of more albums I'm more than sure will be announced very soon, legendary prog rockers Asia will release their 14th studio album Indigo on November 6th, which actually will be the first of several albums that the band will release after signing the deal with Frontiers Records, and the first since Asia's reunion with the legendary Yes guitarist and Asia co-founder Steve Howe, who will join the forces with Asia as a special guest on this record, making it a very special release for all of the band's fans around the world. But anyways, this is about it. These are some of the most anticipated albums of the rest of 2026. And which of these are you most excited about? And which of those that I did not mention in this video should make it onto this list? Please let us know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and we will prevail. Slava Ukraini!